Today on the LA Food Podcast presented by Rusty's Chips. Evan Funke's episode of Chef's Table is out on Netflix. Father Sal and I watched it, so you don't have to. How do we feel about it? Well, let's just say the episode gave one of us an acute case of the ick that no amount of cacio pepe can reverse. Listen to find out why. But first, former Eater New York critic Ryan Sutton has some interesting thoughts on the future of restaurant criticism. The LA County government actually did something positive for aspiring restaurateurs, and there's a tension rising between the need for restaurants to become increasingly sustainable while navigating the tough economic conditions. As always, there's a lightning round of Chef's Kiss Big Miss, and Father Sal brought a Let Me Cook to the table that you're not going to want to miss. One word for you, ARFID. As always, please consider leaving us a rating or a review wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Lucas Hervodio, and without further ado, let's chow down. The LA Food Podcast is brought to you by Rusty's Chips. When I review a sandwich, I'm looking for a few different things. I'm assessing the bread, the fillings, the construction, and of course, how much I like eating it. But when I'm deciding whether I want to revisit a sandwich shop again and again, I consider other factors like ambiance, price, and most importantly, what sides and drinks the shop carries to round out the overall experience. When I see a shop carrying Rusty's Chips, I know this is a shop I want to return to time and time again because it tells me that the shop cares about sourcing the best stuff sourced from local companies. Rusty's Chips have been handmade in Huntington Beach since 1986 and contain only 3 ingredients: potatoes, sea salt, and the oil they're cooked in. That's it. The key to Rusty's iconic taste and epic crunch factor is that they're sliced thick and cooked low and slow. I've seen them do it in person, and it's a time-intensive, painstaking process tailor-made to deliver the best tasting chip in the game. Next time you see Rusty's Chips at a sandwich shop, at a grocery store, or wherever, trust me, grab a bag and go to town. And if you want to try them in the comfort of your own home, go to rustyschips.com/discount/LA Countdown for 10% off on your order. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, a man whose anxiety is bound to be spiking up any day now as the NBA tip-off approaches. It's Father Sal. Father Sal, how you holding up?
Yeah, just like facing my doom. Already Paul George hurts a knee in preseason immediately. Of course, we can't have nice things if you're a Sixers fan, which is what we're referring to. But no, man, otherwise doing well. Excited to come down to LA and see some basketball with you and our friend Sammy at Intuit Dome.
That is so exciting. I was going to say, yeah, if you're a Clippers fan, then you're all too familiar with the Paul George injury saga. Is Intuit Dome? It'll be our first game there, right?
It'll be our first game there, and it'll be really fucking cool, man. I'm excited for this one.
You know what's awesome? I believe there's some like unique food options at the Intuit Dome. I don't know who's giving them their food advice, but they've done a pretty good job of like sourcing from local places. I think friends of the pod, Sunday Gravy, are actually serving an Intuit Dome.
Dude, how have we not talked about this? Yeah, you're exactly right. I think they did they put a lot of effort, I think, into getting some cool and like really unique culinary options for a new stadium. And it's fucking hilarious that we didn't even touch on it at all. Good time for us will be after the game. We can review some of the options.
You know, it's one thing to talk about things we have no business talking about, you know?
You mean like everything we talk about?
Right, but I mean, like, it's another if we haven't even, like, ever been to try the restaurants at all or been to the venue at all. So, speaking of, any good eats this week?
Any good eats this week? Nothing stands out. I feel bad for Seattle that I never have an answer to this. Although, tomorrow I'm going to a restaurant here called Sorel, which is a tasting menu spot. My friend Ishan is visiting from Singapore. Gonna take him out on the town. And I think Sorel is one of those, like, institutions of the Seattle scene, similar to like a Canlis and so on. So I'm excited for that. I'll finally have a good eat story for you next week.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a while since you've eaten anything good. Are you okay? Have you eaten at all?
I think it's more that I eat something and I just like forget it immediately. Like it's gone. It's gone to me. I have to do a better job just in everything in life. Taking like writing down. I need a diary, dude. Like what I watch, what I read, what I eat, because I fucking forget it. And then every time someone asks me, "Hey, what's good? What like have any recommendations? Have you eaten anything good?" I just like completely can't remember having consumed anything except for coffee.
Do you like journal? Do you like have any sort of morning routine?
Morning routine, no, dude. I've like gone in and out of them, but nothing consistent. I tried. Did I ever try journaling? No, not. Journals are one of those things where like sure you like write it out in the moment and then immediately I'm like I hate myself. If I'm like writing about my feelings, I'm like life was hard today or whatever. I just can't stand it. So, but list making and tracking places I've eaten is something I could do.
Yeah, I keep a running list on my notes app of all the places I've eaten in a given year. I've actually stopped that recently just because it was getting too onerous. And some meals, I'll tell you, are better off forgetting, and that includes the meals I had this week up in Sacramento.
Oh wow.
I was there for nothing fun, but it was like a lot of work, and we just had to eat whatever was available. I had the most frustrating lunch of all time at the hotel where I ordered a salad. I was trying to be healthy, and they delivered said salad only for me to discover that it was actually a side salad, and they hadn't even remembered to add the chicken that I had ordered on it. So all I had was a few spinach leaves with just a little bit of like pickled onion and avocado to like get me through hours and hours of like rehearsing this presentation. That was hell.
That does not sound fun. I do not envy you. It sounds a little bit like your fault though. Like read the menu right, bro. Like, but I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, look, we've got quite a bit of stuff to get through today. First and foremost, I wanted to talk about a pretty exceptional podcast interview I heard between Matt Rodbard at This Is Taste and Ryan Sutton, who was the former restaurant critic of Eater New York. He was, I believe, made redundant back when they were slashing their media budgets, and he's since gone on to start his own Substack called The Low Times, where he basically goes out and reviews New York food. Saul, did you give this a listen?
I did. I gotta say, man, and I understand the platform I'm on right now. This Is Taste is, I think, the best food podcast out there. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but just in terms of the kinds of conversations that Matt and the team sort of tee up for the podcast, I think the questions and topics they dive into are really good. A little bit maybe New York centric, if I'm not mistaken. I just have noticed that they have several guests from the New York area, but they also touch on topics that obviously impact the whole industry, and it's one of my favorite follows. So yes, absolutely caught this one.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say, okay, I think Matt is based out in New York, as is, I believe, the co-host, but they do a pretty good job of getting people from all over, honestly.
Yeah.
The one thing is like they do interviews. That's their thing, right? Like if podcast interviews are your thing, then I think that, yeah, that's like best in class, right? They get the most regular guests. They get the most like high quality of guests on a regular basis. It's a really good distribution of like interviews with chefs and like interviews with journalists and people in like, CPG. So yeah, if that's your thing, then by all means, unsubscribe to us and go subscribe to them if you only have room for one food podcast. I listen to a lot of their podcasts. Typically I listen when there's somebody on there that I'm really interested in. And anytime I see like they do the thing where on the cover of each podcast episode, they put the person's face. And anytime I see somebody that has like a food item over their face to disguise their identity,
Yeah.
I always listen to it because that's a food critic. And I love hearing from food critics because I feel like they're such private people. This one really delivered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this conversation, what made it so interesting, I thought, was the deep dive that Ryan kind of went into in the first half of the podcast on the differences between reviews and criticism, and like sort of his overall observations about how the food media landscape has changed.
Yeah. Well, okay. The first thing I wanted to ask you was actually about Substack, because one of the things I found really interesting, Ryan was describing what it's like to basically now run a Substack in lieu of being on the payroll of a larger publication, or of like just a bona fide publication, right? And he was talking a little bit about like the economics of it. And I've always viewed Substack as like a really cool way for like reporters to be their own editors and sort of take their destiny into their own hands and make money. Like if you think about it, Ryan charges $13 a month for monthly subscriptions. He has 3,000 subscribers. I don't think all of those subscribers are paid subscribers, but if they were, he'd be making north of $400,000 a year. I did the math on that. You're welcome. That's a lot of money, right? That's way more than you'd be probably making on Eater's payroll or the Los Angeles Times' payroll. Of course, the thing I didn't factor in is that he's also having to pay for every meal he goes out to. So, like, he's grossing a lot of income. Also, a lot of money is going out the door. And he said himself, yeah, it's profitable right now, but it's not like I'm making a ton of money. It just makes me think, like, is Substack almost like the gig workerification of writers?
Well, first, we should make very clear that we don't know if he's making 400K a year. Like, I don't want to, like, but yeah. But like, you're just saying if all those were paid subscribers, yeah.
Right. I'm saying the sort of like upper limit of what he could be making is $439,000 to be exact.
Sure. Yeah. I see what you're saying with the gig sort of through line. I see it a bit differently than that. I think the comparison I came up with actually in my mind is it sort of like the advent of Substack and its impact on media in particular, food media. The way that's going to be interesting to see evolve is we already know that people are not paying for newspaper subscriptions as much, and like newspapers are struggling to get those subscribers, and paying for a Substack $13 is like you could be putting that towards a Bon Appetit or whatever else, I guess. And what'll be interesting to see is how it compares in my mind to like TV streaming, right? You know how there's like fucking 8 different streamers now, and people have like now if you want to see what you want to see, you have to get like $80 worth of different fucking subscriptions. And it's basically now the same cost, if not more, than the original cable package, the traditional media outlet or industry that existed. And so how is this going to balance out, right? Like, I just wonder if like there's a decentralization from Substack of a lot of talented writers that people are willing to hear. I wonder if that will eventually I wouldn't call it gig work quite, but the platform has I think it will have an increasingly interesting sort of relationship with traditional media.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like sort of like we're seeing with the consolidation of some of the streaming platforms like Discovery and HBO Max, right? Like it all became Max. And I wonder if like you're ever going to see a situation where like 8 really popular Substacks or whatever sort of join forces and become their own media company.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I feel like that must have happened or must be happening a little bit. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Puck. I don't think Puck was like that.
Yeah.
But it kind of almost, for some reason, Puck gave me the vibe of like having basically really, I think, notable, well-established and brand name journalists. I mean, not like quite like at a Matt Iglesias or Ezra Klein level or anything, but like just like well-established folks who came together and made a small outlet that then became successful. Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch like the ebb and flow here. But I don't know if we're here to talk about Substack or the fucking food review stuff, because that's what I'm really interested in.
Well, look, speaking of the food review stuff, I mean, the crux of the argument in my mind that, Ryan was making, he was basically asked, like, what are we losing when we lose food critics? Because in addition to Ryan, there's been a lot of like newsrooms around the country that have stopped investing in food critics. There are probably now entire cities that don't have food critics, like mid-sized cities probably, right? A lot has been said about what's happening when you like lose critics and that void is filled by influencers. But one of the things I thought was interesting that he brought up was one thing we've lost is the discourse between critics.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know what to make of this, basically.
This is the Luca reading comprehension hour, listening comprehension hour. Because, so first of all, it's important to note that Ryan did say he thought that food criticism and food media was actually on an upswing a little bit. Like he thought that like with Priya Christian at the New York Times, he like named a bunch of folks, and he's like, I think food criticism versus like COVID, where there was a ton of contraction, was actually like, in a positive momentum moment. So I want to acknowledge that, of course, as we know, the media landscape.
That's called hedging, my dude. Like that's called hedging and not offending people that are his friends who are critics.
Oh, sure. Okay. I appreciated the overall insight, but to clarify for you, so he said, yes, that one of the things we're missing is this discourse between critics when they bounce different ideas and disagree with one another about their particular insights on the food landscape. That I think was a sub-bullet under a much broader idea that Ryan outlined about the critical difference between food reviewing and actual criticism, right? And particularly the criticism being that deeper insight, advancing of ideas, contextualizing the restaurant or a particular observation in a city, like pulling different strands of thought together, negating bad ideas or whatever it may be, and actually having a conversation that helps people understand where they are and what they're eating and why, versus a review, which is just like, hey, spend your dollar here or don't, right? Or this burger is good or not. And the particularly interesting sort of insight Ryan provided was like, look, yes, in the overall absence, in like, decrease of in the presence of food criticism, or at least I think the readership for it, as influencers and infatuation, and he even names Michelin, come in,
Yeah.
there's a much greater emphasis on the review and much less on the criticism. And I think he pointed out that there is something really lost there, right? Like, and we've talked about this, I think, at length. It makes the whole process or conversation much more transactional, I think, when it makes people maybe even less curious or even just like less educated, right? Like criticism is a really is a deeper idea than just saying like, 9 out of 10 stars for this place or 2 out of 10 stars for that place, or this burger that I'm eating in my car on TikTok is like awesome, go eat it. There's a place for that, but the balance seems a little off, and at least that's what Ryan's argument is. And I thought that was just like an interesting way of framing up one of the trends across food media.
To me, the problem isn't so much that there's a lack of like criticism in my mind. Like what I mean is like, I think there's plenty of opportunities for criticism. And I think that it's not even the audience's fault. I think the audience would actually really fuck with criticism. I mean, look at what happened with Bill Esparza. Like the one time we get actual criticism of like a taqueria, right?
Dude, that was a review. That was a review. Okay, that was a review and maybe a little bit of criticism given his like deep expertise and sort of contextualizing why he was making particular comments about Villa's Taco. So like, I mean, and then that was its own whole thing, but I would much more put that in the review category than the criticism category. And to be clear, things can be both. And Ryan notes that, but yeah, I would not put that example into the criticism category.
Would you call Bill Addison a critic then?
Yes, sometimes he's a critic and a reviewer, right? Like just like Pete Wells, right? Like they do both restaurant reviews, and I do think Bill, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but also will comment on the overall sort of trends and like provide insights on what's happening with food in LA. I think he does that when he selects his restaurant of the year, right? Like he says, here's something that we're seeing across the landscape. Here's what it means. Here's why this restaurant therefore is like a notable selection for this recognition, right? So yes, he's a critic and a reviewer, right? People I think are often don't just provide food criticism, but there's a really I think the idea here is that you said there's plenty of room for criticism, right? And like people will read it if they want it. I don't know if that's true. Criticism typically exists, I think, only or mainly in traditional print media, right? Like actual like deep journalistic work and like a full like expert committed to a landscape diving in. That's kind of the place you can find it. And it's very clear, I think, generally that audiences are much more, I have been trending for years towards the infatuation list or the TikTok influencer, right? Or the LA food countdown to get their information.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think the alternative doesn't exist. Like there's nobody doing criticism on social media. Like they're like Bill Addison just doesn't do any sort of content for social media. And I just think like it's not a proven thesis that there's no appetite for it because I don't think it exists. And like I think that there's a lot of fear actually, because I think criticism inherently involves confrontation at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what is really at play here. I think most people who write about food don't want to make enemies. And like that halts criticism from happening a lot of the time. I'm not saying, and obviously that doesn't mean criticism always has to be negative, right? It's not just like saying negative things about something.
Right.
Yes, there's like the sociological, there's the anthropological, there's all of that goes into criticism. There's deep expertise. I just think that there's room for it. I think that there's appetite. There would be appetite for it based on like the few examples we've seen of people trying to bring that to the masses. I think the issue is people just don't read papers anymore.
So that was going to be the point, right? So you're saying like, sure, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's true or not that no one's doing criticism on Instagram or whatever, but fundamentally, I think it'd be a harder place to do it, right? So let's just say like what really is happening here is like the where the audience goes for its information, right? And you're correct, I think, generally speaking, that the platforms of social media don't necessarily lend themselves to the kind of like the thought and writing and insight. I mean, it could, but like I think criticism in the traditional sense is a more cohesive idea and thesis presented in writing, right? My thought on this is essentially that I don't think you're wrong that there would be appetite for this and that and audiences want to read it. I don't think they just like don't go to papers anymore, and therefore I felt really good in some ways, not patting ourselves on the back, but I felt correct in our instinct to be doing the work to highlight people who like the people who are actually doing that kind of work, right? When we highlight articles in the Taste or Eater, right? Like I think the part that I would like to see, I guess, here is that those food influencers who go out and do the reviews and draw attention and draw a big audience also make an effort to point those audiences who would theoretically be interested in reading about food because they're following a food reviewer to like criticism about the place that they're in. I think that's like the opportunity should they be like willing to do it. I think that's like a thing that we can continue to try to do as well as we can. You have the LA Food Stack. We obviously talk about it in Newsy Bits, put it in the show notes. I think pointing people and helping continue to build the audiences for that deeper level of reporting than just an infatuation list, which of course we also talk about, is maybe the responsibility of the social media influencer.
But why does that just have to happen in writing? Like you seem to be really married to this idea that criticism has to happen in writing.
No, yeah. I'm saying, well, that you're correct. I think that's just traditionally where it's lived, and also in the conversation on the podcast that we're talking about, it was particularly about writing, I think. So that's why I'm pointing in that direction. But you're exactly right too. There's also possibly a way to innovate and deliver the ideas in different formats. That's definitely, certainly video, you could do it as well, right? I don't think that's impossible.
I think, like, for example, like, are you familiar with Evan Lovett of LA in a Minute?
I am, because he came on the LA Food Pod.
He sure did. That was a test. That was a trick question. He's incredible what he's done, right? He's basically like, literally, he started his whole thing because he was pissed that his kids didn't read the newspaper and didn't give a shit about the newspaper, and all they wanted to do was like get on TikTok. So he literally basically started a TikTok account where he was highlighting news stories, and it eventually evolved into him diving deep into the history of Los Angeles, landmark history and curiosities and stuff like that, right? And now he's actually launched LA, what is it called? In a Minute News or something, LA in a Minute News, where he's trying to basically do more news as well. And like for example, today he talked about the continuing sort of like decrease of filming in Los Angeles, right? He's trying to do more things that are relevant enough the moment. And that is awesome. I think like that is what we need to see more of on TikTok. Like I think there's yet to be a publication which is social media first in a video format like that for food. Mm-hmm. The infatuation is that, but it's for reviews, right? Mm-hmm. Could there be one that is for news? We're not really that. Like we publish clips, right, of what we talk about, but like imagine somebody actually doing the news and publishing those clips, right? Like I think there's room for that. I think that is how you get more people to care. Like, for example, some of the stuff we're going to talk about on the podcast today, right? Where people can start doing restaurants in their homes now, right? That would be a really interesting conversation to have online. And I'm sure there's an audience for that, but nobody is doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And like, yes, I think there are ways to innovate and just continue to bring people along into the conversation about food or whatever, however you want to say it. I still think, though, like at its core, whether video or print, good criticism is typically long form, right? And just in the service of like, supporting local media, I do think it's important and hopefully a service that we can continue to get sharper and sharper on to help direct people to things they may not have seen because they don't have LA Times subscriptions, but that could be really interesting to them because they follow an LA food podcast, right? So I think, that was my kind of like key takeaway from that.
No, I appreciate you trying to make what we do sound noble. So that's all right. Well, then, speaking of news that people should hear, as I've already alluded to, LA County actually seemed to do something good this week when they began issuing permits to folks so that they can start operating restaurants out of their homes. Of course, this was already happening in certain instances. It's just becoming legal now with certain caveats. Let's just start here. How do you feel about this? Have you ever had one of these experiences at a home restaurant?
Dude, I haven't, but I've really wanted to. There was a pop-up that I think could still be going on called Cow by Bear. And it was in Seattle, and I think it was in San Diego sometimes. Like kind of right when I moved to Seattle, they were in the area. And essentially like you would like sign up for a reservation on the day of, get a text to a home address, and some dude in a bear costume, like a mascot bear costume, would cook essentially like I think a tasting menu with steak at the end.
Oh, that's funny.
Cow by bear, right? So yeah. And so I was like, oh, this is like I thought it was like the coolest idea. Maybe I'm a sucker, but I've not done one of these, and I think I would really like it.
Yeah, I've been to like I mean, obviously during the pandemic there were a bunch, right? They're mostly people just selling out of their homes, and I think this actually still applies to that. But like a really famous one in LA right now is Comedor Tenchita, which is a Oaxacan
Mhm.
restaurant really that operates out of a backyard. You know, I think Bill Addison even reviewed Comedor Tenchita if I'm not mistaken, and Bill Sparza would probably kill us if we didn't say that he's the one who brought Comedor Tenchita to the mainstream. But it's a really good thing, I think. But I did want to talk through some of the caveats here, which is one,
Okay.
there's a limitation on how much these restaurants can actually do. Number one, it's something like they can only serve 30 meals a day and 90 meals a week, and they can only gross about $100,000 a year. Gross. That's not profit. And we know how much
Mhm.
food costs and labor costs if you have to hire someone. So it doesn't really seem like a way to make a viable living for a lot of people in Los Angeles necessarily, given how much it costs to live here. But maybe it's a good first step.
Yeah, I don't think the idea here is to have people making like full time restaurants in their homes. I think though it creates flexibility for folks who may want to do pop ups or pilots or experiment and do like that one meal a week where they try stuff. I mean, essentially at the end of the day, it's like maybe, I won't say boring, but like nitty gritty. Just like land use and zoning policy and like food safety policy. But it's a cool like opening.
Yeah.
I think what you'll see is because I'm sure if you're a chef who wants to do a pop up and you have to find a location that you rent and or partner inside another kitchen, pretty complicated, right? I'm sure that adds like more to the just overall logistics and delivery. And if you have the option of doing it out of your home, who knows? Maybe we like see more ideas, more experimental ideas, even if they are not like huge operations.
Yeah, fair enough. I also think it's for, people who don't have the capital to start a business yet, maybe they're like immigrants or people like that as well who like want to start a business in their home, and it's relatively low cost to get these permits. So you can build some additional capital this way, hopefully, to then start a business elsewhere too. So yeah, I think it's a good like first step. I'm interested to see how it goes. All right, enough on that. Last story I wanted to discuss today before Chef's Kiss or Big Miss. As you know, I'm a bit of a sustainability nerd. So there was a piece in Eater by Meg Wilcox that really caught my eye on how restaurants are trying to diminish their carbon footprints. She goes down the entire list of what restaurants are doing, from like electrifying their kitchens to investing in like more efficient HVAC systems to composting, all of the above, right? It kind of jumped out to me that there is a real tension emerging between what it takes to run a sustainable restaurant and, of course,
Mhm.
running a cost-efficient restaurant in really, really tough economic conditions. The piece actually talks about some legislative efforts around the country that are starting to get hip to some of these needs, like, for example, to electrifying kitchens. And I'm a little worried that if those legislatures start moving to mandate the electrification of kitchens or things like that, yes, it could be good for the environment, but it would really squeeze restaurants at a time like this. And I think that restaurants need to be savvy about how they advocate for themselves in this time.
I don't know though about mandate, right? I doubt that would end up happening. Maybe it would. I don't know for sure, but I highly doubt a mandate. I think what you're more likely to see are incentives, right? Rebates to electrify your oven or your stove, and use more efficient HVAC, and also I think if I'm not mistaken, what the the pitch here is from the economic side is, yes, there's a high upfront cost, right? And they really highlight this. Like, so for restaurants who are like obviously working at the margins, you can't replace your stuff. Often you have to buy the cheapest equipment, which is typically still natural gas, oil, etc. And so the main cost is the initial capital, but then over time, theoretically, the efficiencies will result in cost savings year over year, month over month, whatever. So I think the policy you'd look for is something to help alleviate and incentivize, alleviate that initial cost to incentivize the adoption of electrification. Mandates would be really, really intense. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, right? But like, I mean, obviously it's an extreme example, but like California mandating all electric vehicles be sold in a few years, right? So it's happening. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
there's more leeway with that because it's a massive industry that can absorb that cost a bit more. But I do think it would behoove restaurants to sort of like get ahead of this just in case it happens. To me, you're exactly right. Like, I think one thing they could advocate for is like, hey, yeah, this would be awesome to do. Can we get subsidies to help us make this happen?
Right, to make the transition. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually think that would be a really good thing for any legislature to do, because one of the things that was mentioned in the piece is like the energy costs of a restaurant are so much higher than other retail businesses, and as we know, like true environmental change happens when scale happens.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're actually getting a large number of restaurants, which are the most sort of like energy using retail businesses, to shift their models, then you're making a real dent, you know what I'm talking about, in like reducing carbon. So if there's the right subsidies, I can see this being a win-win.
Yeah, whatever the right policy incentive looks like. And then on the other side, so we're talking about like, so the public sector mechanism could be something like rebates or incentives, right?
Yeah.
What I thought was really cool, and shout out to Top Chef, one of our Top Chef faves, Ed Lee, who is doing what I think the private sector side could do for chefs who have the cachet and the finances to do it, is to model and pilot restaurants that work using non-gas, non-plastic. I think Shia is the restaurant that Ed is opening in DC in partnership with the university. To that literally will not. I mean, because beyond just the energy stuff, right? You're exactly right that the energy would be maybe the main major carbon related impact here, but plastics. HVAC, right, and customer behavior to reuse things over and over. The innovation from an Ed, or like why not a Tom or anyone else, like a celebrity chef, to say,
Yeah.
hey, we will model how this could work and how it could look for you if you're a restaurant and like interested in exploring this. I think that's also super key. So both side mechanisms happening here, really cool. And also, finally, I'll say that also on the, I guess, somewhat on the private sector side, third party actors like Butterfly, who they mentioned in the article, who essentially will, I think, help front some of that cost for electrification and also manage utility bills. So restaurants can understand how much money they're saving over time with that third party capital coming in there, right? So a lot of interesting pathways forward here beyond just the public policy option.
Do you consider sustainability when deciding where you're going to go for your next meal?
Dude, absolutely not. I feel bad about it reading this article, but no, I do not, man. I should.
No, I don't either. I actually sometimes prefer the ones that aren't sustainable. Like, for example, like they were talking about how Chipotle, I think, made a big deal of using the biodegradable containers. Dude, those things suck. I think we can agree.
Yo, the number one, paper straws. Like they have figured out sustainable compostable straws now, right? You have like that kind of hard recycled plastic one. A paper straw fucking kills me, dude. Like I hate it. I hate it.
I feel like people have become like wise enough to stop using those. I don't remember the last time I saw a paper straw.
I think the transition has been pretty broad at this point, thank God. Last time I was in LA, I actually got a paper straw and I was unhappy about it. Yeah.
Do you wanna dox the restaurant?
I can't remember. It was a coffee shop. I can't remember which one it was though.
Oh, all right, beware, folks. There's still a coffee shop out there using paper straws. All right, that'll probably do for Newsy Bits today. You ready for a round of Chef's Kiss or Big Miss?
Let's do it, baby.
All right, first up, famous Mexico City churro shop El Moro is opening in LA. Sal, Chef's Kiss or Big Miss?
So, reading the headline, I was like, oh man, easy Chef's Kiss, right? We've had El Moro in Mexico City, great stuff. Then you read the fine print.
Yeah.
Taking over for Patras in Echo Park, fucking biggest miss. Miss me with this. Devastating news. Honestly, I give a shit about churros. Like, it's cool that El Moro is coming
Yeah.
through because it's such a well-established Mexico City brand. Fuck this news. Honestly, I was so bummed out.
Yeah.
Churros can't solve a fucking like Echo Park bar crawl hangover. They can't save you.
No.
Patras could have saved you. It's really sad news. It's really sad news.
Who's
Echo
gonna
Park
save
is
you?
over, man.
Who's gonna save you?
It's over.
I agree. I'm actually more surprised that like that didn't make it into some of the headlines, right? Like it was all El Moro, El Moro, El Moro, churro, churro, churro. And then yeah, you read the article and it's like, wait, Patras is closing? That's like an institution. Like we've had so many meals there.
Yeah.
I mean, the neighborhood's gone already. I think we can agree, but that was one of the last stalwarts.
Yeah, it really was. It's iconic, right? And it's gone. Echo Park is over. Aside from Lonely Oyster, shout out our friends over there. But yeah, I was super bummed. I know the Eater article kind of briefly touched on like how Patras is an institution and like a kind of a throwback, right? But dude, the breakfast burritos, the fucking burgers, it was always like an old reliable, super, super bummed to see it go.
And I shouldn't say the neighborhood's gone. You're right. Lonely Oyster, Little Joy, there's amazing places, right? But it's just right now we're sort of dependent on like responsible business owners having to come in and like create new meaningful concepts. Unfortunately, there's also like a Pit Fire Pizza and a Chipotle and a Starbucks. So it's like, you know, you win some, you lose some when this happens.
And dude, I think the story with Patras is the same story we saw with Sunset Beer and others, right? Rent, like essentially not being able to afford rent or the property being sold. Like essentially the opportunity for folks to make a buck in Echo Park by, you know, selling to big franchises. Even again, El Moro is cool. We're not hating on El Moro specifically.
Yeah.
It's just that like it's really sad to see the transition happen.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Eater unveiled an app which contains all of its maps and apparently is pretty easy to navigate. Is this a chef's kiss or a big miss?
Dude, I love it. I downloaded it already. The only missed part of this is about fucking time, dude. Like I think people have been bugging Eater, and they alluded to this in the announcement for a long time. Like, why the fuck don't you have an app? So thank God they did it. Super into it. Go download the Eater app.
Is it easy to use?
I haven't really used it yet. I downloaded it last night. That's when I saw this.
You should do an app review, because that's my one skepticism with this is right now with like AI, especially Gemini, Google's Gemini, you can just input a list of restaurants. Like you could go to Eater, copy the list and paste it into Gemini, and it will put it on Google Maps for you seamlessly.
Whoa.
That's pretty dope. And then obviously you save that list. I just wonder if Eater's app is going to be as easy to use as Google Maps is. I suspect it won't, but you never know.
Well, but you don't have like the context that the list provides, right? When we were talking, like the reviews and the insights from the Eater folks, and obviously articles of real criticism that they do as well.
Fair.
So I'm pushing for it. Fuck Google Maps. No, I don't hate Google Maps.
Fuck Google Maps. All right, next one. Erewhon is debuting kids meals. They cost $20. Chef's kiss or big miss?
This headline made me realize we need a third category in this segment. It's chef's kiss, big miss, and I don't give a shit. I don't care. like good for them. If a parent feels the need to buy 20 bucks worth of food for a kid's meal, they're welcome to. But I don't care. I don't care about this.
Yeah, the audience for this announcement is one, and it is Rick Locks. Okay, moving on to the next one. There's a new restaurant, Sam's Place, over in Highland Park, and they've decided to do kind of an innovative publicity strategy, and that is to have no social media or online presence whatsoever. Chef's kiss or big miss?
I'm into this, man. I like this. I mean, maybe I'm a sucker for surprises, but I just think it's a fundamentally good strategy. And the New York Times article you also linked here as part of the headline, which spoke to the broader trend of restaurants kind of being mysterious, right? Not sharing their menu, not making it easy to find their location, not sharing a bunch of pictures online or anything. I think is a really, I think it's a cool trend, right? Like, I don't know. Again, I'm a sucker for stuff like this, speakeasy vibes, but I also do think there's a real thing where, and I think they spoke to this in the New York Times article, where if you don't go in with like a picture, like an image of every single item on the menu in your head and an exact picture of what you want and think your experience will be, and you instead go in blind, I think it sets you up for like an actually, you know, a better and more open experience of the restaurant itself. I think it actually tees you up And I kind of do wonder if there's like a trend and effect there, right? When people go in not knowing what to expect in terms of menu or experience, do they end up like actually getting more delighted, for lack of a better term, by what they then experience because they don't have a set expectation beforehand. I also really quickly wanted to share this quote from the New York Times article from the owner or chef of Stir Crazy in LA, Miss Hoffman. I don't have her first name in front of me. Sorry about that. But she said at the very end of the article, I use this term all the time. Guests kind of want to be dommed. They want to have control taken away. So I got to ask you, man, Valentine's Day, Stir Crazy, we getting dommed?
Not for you, bro, because clearly from our experience at Horses, you did not like being dommed one bit.
Oh yeah, that was more unexpected, I guess. and so
Yeah, that was unexpected dom. You only like it when you know what you're expecting going in. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like this too. I think it's like, let's see how it goes. To me, it's kind of a savvy move when like marketing budgets maybe are tight and social media budgets are tight. Like, let's just nix it and see what happens. The thing is, like, people are still going to post about the restaurants online.
Right.
You know, like if you're curious what the food looks like, all you have to do is type in Sam's Place on Instagram and you get a bunch of like people who have already taken pictures or made videos. So it's not totally a mystery. So to me, it's kind of just a potentially smart business play, depending on how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to go all the way, and I think places have done this where they don't allow pictures inside. Like if you wanted to go all out with it,
Yeah, Frog
Club in New York, which they initially didn't allow photos and then did. I think it's kind of cool. It's an interesting like gambit, right? You're right. It's cost saving for marketing and lower effort for marketing, but also, and it makes me personally like excited to go check it out because I want to see what's going on behind the closed door. But I wouldn't take my parents to a place I knew nothing about like that, right? Like there are probably like scenarios that they like give up on or like they like basically opt out of because of the decision. But I think it's cool. Cool zag.
Cool zag. All right. We've got a lot of Evan Funke to discuss, but before we do you have a Let Me Cook?
Dude, let me cook. I'm fed up with ARFID, man. Let me explain. I will. So this is something your wife alerted me to. ARFID is a new eating disorder. This is not like a historically established thing. A new eating disorder, they call it, / a phobia somehow as well, called avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And the way I learned about this is because your wife sent me a video of this dude on like TikTok being like, "This is my first time opening a banana. Let's see how it goes." And then like just like like peeling a banana back. This is a grown man. This is like a 30-year-old man, right? And peeling a banana back and be like, oh, like freaking out about it. Now look. Actual mental illness. I'm not trying to make light. Phobias are real. If you're afraid of a banana, like look yourself in the mirror. Like I have real fears, like deep water and sharks, like things that can actually harm you. A banana is ridiculous, but look, people have their things. That's fine. What really gets me on this though is that kids are getting diagnosed with ARFID, right?
No.
Dude, like a lot of kids. I think it actually kind of began as like specifically as literally children with ARFID are extremely selective eaters and sometimes have little interest in eating food. It's a child. It's a child with a picky eater. Like I remember, like one of my favorite articles I've read was about a woman who'd moved her family from like Connecticut to France, right? And her kid was a huge, like really picky eater in Connecticut, and like just like would not like throw stuff out or refuse to eat things. And in France, they're just like, "This is what you got to eat. Like eat your vegetables."
True.
And kids will just fucking adapt. It's food. It's fine. You like to over-diagnose, like clinically diagnosed children who are kind of like, I don't like Brussels sprouts. I don't know, man. I don't know. I really, really don't want to. I'm not trying to make light of actual issues. I just suspect that impatient and maybe overly I don't know, involved parents might just want a reason to say that their kid is being a brat and not eating their food because they have like a diagnosis instead of them just not being strict parents, man. Come on, let's grow up.
I think you asked the question, do kids in Pakistan have this?
Yeah. Right? Dude, like, although I did Google this and there is apparently no, it's not real. So I Googled whether or not ARFID exists outside the United States because I'm like, this sounds like upper middle class, just like parent, like absent / uncommitted or overly committed parent, one of the two. And it turns out apparently there are instances of ARFID being diagnosed elsewhere, but it's really like the literature I read was like up to 15% of people have ARFID. And I'm like, 15% of people don't have ARFID. Like it's just not. It's like I think it's made up. It's a new thing. They I shouldn't say it's made up, but like yeah, I don't know, man. Kids in Pakistan, they're eating the banana. They're just eating the banana. Like let's not. Come on.
I will say, I think the guy's name is like ARFID Andrew. He is a good follow on Instagram or TikTok, I should say. And ARFID Andrew, if you ever want to come on this podcast, tell us about your fears, you're more than welcome. That would be a fascinating conversation.
For the record, I do believe him. Like, I don't think he's acting. I just don't understand.
It is crazy to see it. He looks like genuinely scared and disgusted by the idea of peeling a banana. And I kind of get it, dude. If you think about it, I kind of get it. I think like if you've never really done it and you like have convinced yourself in your brain that like there's something about bananas that like is giving alien, like, yeah, it's kind of an alien thing. It's like, it comes out of this like weird hard shell and it's all gooey. It's got strings on it. It's like, that's my favorite part of the video is actually after he's peeled it, they're like, no, you got to get the strings. You got to get the strings. And he's like, fuck no. And he just hands him the banana. I love it. I love our Andrew.
Word. I cooked. That's my cook.
You cooked. It was a good cook. All right. We'll be back right after the break to talk about having Funke. The LA Food Podcast is brought to you by House of Macadamias. Dear listener, do you have a favorite nut? Here's why I've happily given that title over to the macadamia. First, it's chock full of nutritional benefits, including one of the best omega 6:3 ratios in the nut game. 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. Cashew, more like cash-ew. Second, it's super versatile. You can have them as a snack. You can find tons of applications to include them in your cooking. You can even use the oil for cooking, in addition to using it for skin and health purposes. If you want to get in on the macadamia game, head to the LA Food Pod page on houseofmacadamias.com to access my curated list of macadamia products. We've got extra virgin cold-pressed macadamia oil, savory macadamia snack packs, and salted or unsalted macadamia nut butter. All great for snacking, all great for cooking. The best part is when you buy an LA Food Pod bundle on houseofmacadamias.com, you'll instantly get a free multi-pack of macadamia snack bars featuring flavors like chocolate, white chocolate, and coconut white chocolate. And if you subscribe to our bundle, you get a 15% discount on all of it. And don't worry, you can pause, cancel, or adjust the subscription at any time. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/pages/LA-foods and go nuts. All right, last week I finally watched the Evan Funke episode of Chef's Table on Netflix, and ever since I watched it, I have been so stoked to get into this conversation. Sal, did you watch it?
Multiple times. Yeah, I dove right in there.
You watched it multiple times? Wow.
Yeah, dude, I'm the food TV correspondent, man. I got to do my homework. I hadn't seen Chef's Table in a minute. I feel like I kind of missed it. I missed the style.
Well, that actually brings me to my first question. What's your history with Chef's Table? Or you're not like an every episode kind of guy?
No, I was through the first 3 seasons, I think. Like the first season hit super hard, and I'm less like. I don't cape for Chef's Table, the show, but I do cape for individual episodes. Like I remember first time I watched the Francis Mallman episode, which I can't remember if it was season 1 or 2, was fucking like mind blowing. Enrique Olvera, Nancy Silverton, Guggen Anand, right? Like these episodes like stay with me. Bianco on the pizza season. So through the first 3 seasons, I think I was a pretty regular watcher. Season 4 was pastry, and as we know from my Great British Bake Off takes, I don't respect it, and so I was like, nah, I don't care. And I actually didn't really go back for seasons 5 and 6. So was psyched to dive back into the Chef's Table world. Definitely a fan, but yeah, it really heavily depends on at this point the chef who's being profiled to kind of hook me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I actually probably have watched even less than you have. I think I watched the first season, like to some extent. Was that the one that had Central on it?
I actually don't remember off the top of my head. That might have been 2. I was going back and looking at the episodes and realized I mixed them up a bunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Like the Central one I remember watching myself. Yeah, it's fucking really cool. When Chef's Table hits, it hits really fucking hard.
Yeah. Like, I think my favorite episode I've seen to date is in the pizza one, actually. It was Gabriele Bonchi's one. He's this like pizza guy who started Pizzarium down in Rome. And I just loved his story because there was real drama to it. Like, there was real drama.
Mhm.
Like, I think the dude like had some addiction issues or something in the middle of it. Like, he got a divorce in the middle of it. Like he basically
Well,
had
in the middle of filming.
no, 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 no. In like
Oh, in the story of his life.
yeah, that would be
Got
fucking insane if he's like
it.
gets up from the interview being like, "Sorry, my wife is in the other room and we're about to have a blowout." No, wasn't like that. But these stories are structured in a way that follows like a typical sort of like movie arc, right? And like in
Mhm.
any movie, there's like the obstacles that come about usually like 2/3 way through the movie or something. The bad guys close in, so to speak, and
Yeah.
that was real bad guys, like addiction issues, divorce, having to rebuild his life and get healthy too. Cause I think he has some real health issues associated with eating so much. Right. So
Mhm.
that was all like real stakes to it. But I'm not like an avid chef's table guy. I really appreciate it though. Like I have to say, like what it's done for the cinematography of like food shows and stuff. Let's face it, every food show wants to be chef's table now, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It really changed the game when it hit. Like season 1 of Chef's Table, I think like really like hit like the mainstream and like kind of changed people's idea of how food stories could be told. It changed the hagiography of chefs even. I mean, I think at
What?
that point it had been building the hagiography,
Yeah.
like the idealization, idolizing and worshiping of I think not worshiping, but like celebration of celebrity chefs. Like I think it completely maybe not completely, but it really took it to the next level in terms of how we profile and tell chef stories. And I think there's been nothing like it. I don't think there's really been anything like it since too. Like I feel like there are other shows that have tried, but Chef's Table remains one of one. The downside I will say as the show goes on is the season 1 and 2, I think because it was such a new idea and Netflix was new and new like Netflix original content was new, I think we got like a little bit less PR-y, more authentic
Yeah.
stories a little bit, right? Like just the way the chefs showed up, Nikki Nakayama and like all the people who were in those first couple of seasons, Guggen, Francis Mallman, like it was just like, hey, here's me doing my thing. Whereas now, because of what the brand of Chef's
Yeah.
Table is, if you're going on, you're like, here's my message and my brand and how I'm going to present myself as I go forward.
Yeah, yeah, it feels a little propaganda-y at times. Yeah, not to get into the criticisms right away, but like you're absolutely right. I feel like there was a rawness that is missing in these later seasons just because people know what to expect, I think, and chefs also know what to expect now going in, so they probably come in with more of an agenda in terms of the story that they themselves want to and are willing to tell. That said,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good fucking show. Like you can't get away from like
Yeah.
it's a good show. They know how to tell chef stories, and I think every food show wants to be it, even though they're not doing the exact same thing. Like one that comes to mind is Padma Lakshmi's Taste the Nation on Hulu,
Mm-hmm.
which is not about individual chefs. It's more about like topics, but the cinematography, the type of storytelling and stuff.
Yeah.
It's straight out of the chef's table playbook. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Now let's talk about Evan Funke. Obviously, we've eaten at a Evan Funke restaurant, two Evan Funke restaurants together before.
Mm-hmm.
What were your feelings on Mr. Funke walking into this episode?
Pretty overall supportive, man. Like my whole history of like with Evan Funke is chronicled on this podcast. Like you opened like when we first started recording, you would make like rude asides about Evan, and I actually like I was like I don't know like who you're talking about. Like I'm so like I like was literally like completely unaware. Then we ate both at Mother Wolf and Felix, and I realized in a rewatch of Top Chef season 17, LA All Stars,
Yeah.
that he was one of the guest judges there, and I was like, oh shit, like that's the guy. So yeah, no, I like positive. I don't know if I would say Evan is a chef that I was like really excited to go deep on necessarily, like personality wise, but I like his food, so like that was enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, and you basically just described my journey, right? Which was, I think I came from a place of like deep skepticism with Evan. And I think we'll get into those reasons in this conversation today. But as an Italian, unfortunately, anytime you see a non-Italian person cooking your food, you get a little skeptical. Okay. I mean, it's not across the board. There's certain places I go and like it's not an Italian chef, but the way they're doing it is super respectful and well done. Like one that comes to mind is Jackson Cobb's restaurants, right? Like I think what they do is like really good, and you don't walk in there feeling like your culture has been appropriated necessarily, right? You walk out actually feeling good about your culture and like you've got a good representation of your food, right? But with Evan,
Ah.
I felt always that something about his attitude towards the way he described his work rubbed me the wrong way. It was like he described himself as this quote unquote custodian of Italian culture, right? And he does that on the show again.
Mhm.
And something about that grand statement rubbed me the wrong way when I initially heard it. And I think the show gave me some more like sort of like fodder as to why that may have been when I first heard it.
Mhm.
I will say though, I had a bit of a turnaround on Evan earlier this year when we did have the chance to revisit Felix. And, I got to say, like, I also revisited Mother Wolf this year for my noodle countdown. You really can't say too many bad things about his food. His food is really, really good. The one thing, which my wife will kill me if I don't give her credit for this take, some people feel that the pasta is too al dente. Jonathan Gold himself said that the pasta is too al dente, right? So, it's not, there's like real validity to the thesis. Not to say my wife's thesis is invalid, of course. When you really get down to it, though, there's not a lot that you can say bad about his pasta. And like, it's good.
Mhm.
His food is good. Maybe you can say it's too pricey. $48 for a bolognese feels like a lot, but you also see the labor he puts into it and you kind of understand why it costs that much. So I want to be clear, when I went into this episode, I had relatively good feelings about Evan Funke. Let me start there.
I find it interesting that you can both say that you feel sometimes that Evan is, whatever, appropriating or putting on blah blah like Italian culture, and also say his pasta is that good and legit, right? If his pasta is that good and unassailable, which I would agree it is, then he
I did not say unassailable. You said that.
okay, but we said okay. If his pasta is like really fucking good, and he is, I think making like as we saw in the show, making a real commitment to the craft of handmade pasta, and you think it's good, how can he also how like isn't he actually being the custodian that he describes himself as?
No. And I'll explain
Wow.
why in a moment. So we'll get there. But will you first, Saul, since you are the TV correspondent and this is literally your job, can you give our listeners the cliff notes of the episode in case they have not watched it and have no intention to? And if you do have an intention to and don't want any spoilers, you may want to fast forward for the next 30 seconds.
I mean, I'm going to keep it high level because, essentially, the show is the typical arc of any other chef's table. It follows Evan's journey into first of all, his epiphany about why he wanted to become a chef. I think that's a pretty common idea that's in many chefs' tables. And then his particular obsession, commitment, and craft around handmade pasta as like the core idea that he committed himself to earlier in his career. And it goes through kind of what you were describing with your other episodes, right? It goes to the ups and downs, the closing of Mercado. Was that the name of the restaurant?
Ducato.
The closing of a restaurant, like a bankruptcy, challenges, trying to find his the restaurant that he could champion. I thought actually a really cool reflection from him, given our recent conversations about Odium, about learning the business side, like ignoring it, getting burned by ignoring it, and then learning it. It's his career arc, right? And very much yes, he's doing the self branding and the self mythologizing here. One thing I do want to highlight is that as I was watching it, I was like, what's up with this episode? And we'll get into Evan's personality a little bit. I'm like, why am I feeling certain ways as we go along here? Part of it is that I think this episode of Chef's Table spent more time on people who are not the subject than any other. Meaning that Evan kind of was like, it brought in his mentors and his partners, and he directed attention to other people quite a lot. I think more than you really ever see in Chef's Table. So I want to note that as part of this episode as well.
I don't know that to be true, but okay, we'll allow it for now.
I'm pretty sure it
All right,
is.
well, look, hey, let's get to the good stuff. What did you like about this episode? And, it sounds like you liked a lot.
Look, I wouldn't say it's far from my favorite Chef's Table episode. And I don't think I walked away in like wonderment of Evan Funke. But I will say, like, in terms of and his story, like I said, I like the learning journey, and I like like whatever we say in the critiques that we get into, I think he's legit. Like he's legit. Like he has I think a real commitment, obsession, respect for the craft, respect for the time it takes to master it, respect for the traditional ways of making pasta that he's championing, and the growth that he went through over the course of his career. I think these are really interesting and cool lessons. I mean, of course, if you want to say what I like about the episode, yeah, I like watching people make pasta. It's fucking cool. Like the food looks great. But just from a learning about Evan perspective, I walked away being like, yeah, this is like legit. Like he is super committed to this thing, and I appreciated that.
I agree with that. I mean, I will say like this episode did give me a newfound appreciation for Evan's work. I think like my early criticisms, were this doesn't feel like an Italian restaurant. Like, and what I mean by that is at an Italian restaurant, not every shape needs to be handmade. Like not every shape of pasta needs to be handmade. Some Italians would argue are better as dried pastas. And I think it's interesting actually that one of the episodes coming up that follows the Evan Funke episode is about a dried pasta master in Italy. And so, when I was walking away from Felix, I was always like, did that tonnarello need to be freshly made? Like just doesn't feel like really Italian. It feels a little like gimmicky, right? But you learn about why he's doing it. And it's really about this, like, it is like to give you a handmade pasta experience, not necessarily like even an authentic Italian experience. It's a handmade pasta experience. And it made me appreciate it more, right? Like it made me appreciate that aspect of it. It made me appreciate the fact that the dishes are going to cost more. I just kind of like made fun of the fact that the bolognese is $48. But if you see the kind of intensity it takes to make a sfoglia and you think about training your staff to do that, having them do that regularly, then you see like sort of the like intricate hand motions it takes to make very delicate pasta shapes. Like, yeah, it's going to cost money, especially when you factor in labor costs, right? So it made me appreciate all of that. And yeah, I mean, it honestly did act as a good sort of like advertisement for the restaurants, because I'm not going to lie, I'm excited to go back in certain ways.
Dude, I literally feel the same way. And again, that's kind of the point of Chef's Table. But 100%, I walked away from this being like I don't know if Evan Funke is something like on my Mount Rushmore of chefs or anything like that, like not even close. But I'm fucking excited to go back to Mother Wolf and Felix, like and try Funke. Like, yeah, it got me super excited to go back to his restaurants.
Yeah, we got to go to Funke next time you're in town. Let's make a reservation at Funke. I haven't been yet, just because I hear like a lot of the menu is basically just what they have at Felix and Mother Wolf, but still, I feel like we should go check it out, right?
Yeah.
To your earlier point, I also like the way that they attempted being the key word there, to center the women that taught him the recipes in the show as well. I like, obviously, I think at least they attempted to do that. Like, I think other shows don't even do that. Like, for example, like there was this whole barbecue episode that Dave Chang did on one of his shows that I think like missed out on centering some of like the key pioneering cultures of barbecue. I think like namely like black barbecue creators down in the South. I think that was the critique of it. So, you think it's an easy thing to center the people who taught you and who pioneered the form, but it's not always done. So I appreciated that they did that. So I will say kudos for that.
100%. It's a choice, right? Like I said, I was like, why does this feel different from other Chef's Table? And it's because, like I said, he spends a lot of time directing attention and credit towards those people who taught him. We can get into maybe some I don't know some cynicism around that we can talk about, but overall I like I think it's a kudos.
Well, what didn't you like?
So my number one question walking away from this thing, and again keeping in mind that like self-branding, self-mythologizing, PR driven machine that I think Chef's Table like mostly is now, my first thought, both watching the episode and afterward, was, yo, can Evan speak Italian? Because the episode really wants you to think he can. And I Googled it. I know he can't, right? Like he doesn't, like he's in interviews said, I like only know enough to be dangerous or whatever. But like in the show, they don't say that. In the show, they have him speaking Italian as much as he can in a way that's not very convincing. And I was kind of laughing at it, like where that was was a really like the try hard like self branding thing, right? Whereas
Yeah.
like do you need to be saying this? Like it would be like Alessandra talking and then him just chiming in kind of with like a nothing statement.
Perfetto.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, the handmade pasta is good, and
Yeah.
see, right? So
I mean, he just says a whole lot of nothing in English and in Italian. Like I will say, like I've heard him speak on a panel at Pizza City Fest last year,
mm,
and that is kind of just the way he speaks. He just speaks in like platitudes and nothing. Like pasta is danger. Pasta is sex. Pasta, like it's just like metaphors that don't really mean anything. So if he was doing that in Italian. The thing is, it's a pretty easy thing to learn right before you get on camera.
yeah, exactly. It sounds like they fed him a sentence, right, for him to just like recite back. And what you just said, I think, will be like the number one critique I have here, which is, and it's not like it's not like a critique, right? It's just like an observation where Evan does have this kind of self-mythologizing, like egocentric storytelling mode that I actually have just weirdly noticed with people from LA a couple times,
Whoa.
like including friends of ours. I'm gonna be frank. Hopefully, I'm not like alienating our audience here, but
Shots fired at Abdo.
like literally, yeah, dude, you knew immediately what I was talking about. Sorry, Abdo, but it's just kind of like a thing where the way they talk about themselves and their life just kind of makes you go like, huh. It's a little like practiced. It feels like it maybe lacks some self-awareness. Now, like I'm saying that in terms of like the vibe it gave off. I don't necessarily think it's true. I disagree that Evan doesn't say anything in English. Like I think like he has just a manner of speaking, a manner of carrying himself. And yeah, he's a big brand now, right?
Yeah.
And so everything here is like very intentional, and you can like feel that effort, and you can feel almost his desire to be seen a certain kind of way, right? He wants to be seen as this like master custodian, almost like a monk of pasta, right? Like he wants to like have this vibe, like, and it's a little try hard. I don't think it necessarily takes away from the legitimacy of the work he's put in.
Yeah, both things can be true.
To master, like he has done it. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like he's done it, and he knows he's done it, and he says things like,
Yeah.
the last thing I want to cook is a burger, or the cows in California taste like dried grass. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I don't know if that's true. But it's kind of like this, like, oh, he clearly sees himself in a certain way that kind of is kind of cringy. It's kind of cringy sometimes, but it doesn't take away from the actual.
No, it doesn't. But it does make it. So here's what it is, right? And I think this is actually the headline of this week's LA Food Stack. Watching this, Evan Funke gave me the ick. He gave me the ick. And what I mean is like his craft is virtually unquestionable, right? And making handmade pasta, like he's clearly a master of that. As we've discussed, he uses this word custodian over and over and over again when he's talking about the culture and the art form and the artisanship, right? What is the key thing about custodians? The key thing about custodians is that the thing that they are the custodians of is at the front and at the center. They themselves are in the back. You don't know the custodian of your school, but you just know that the bathroom is clean. That's what you know, right? Like to me, maybe it started as him wanting to be a custodian of this form, but let's be honest. The restaurant is called fucking Funke now.
Yeah. That was about to say it.
His name is on it. So even this is what I mean when they say they attempted to center the women. Okay, it's fucking brilliant that you put the names of Alessandra and Gemma and all those ladies who taught you the pasta shapes on the menu. But your name is on the building, bro. Your name is on the building.
Okay.
And there's something so uncomfy to me about the fact that he's the one that's ultimately reaping the rewards of all of this, right? Like he's the one who's glad handing on the red carpet, doing the Vanity Fair's Oscar party, going viral with mortadella sandwiches. Like he's the one that's on Jimmy Kimmel. Like, yes, I know that it's kind of the function of being the face of a restaurant and being a chef in the modern day and age, but just don't bullshit us, bro. Like pasta is a lucrative business for him at this point, and that is okay. That is okay. But like the lack of self-awareness when he's talking about stuff, the thing is, okay, lack of self-awareness is actually a generous way to frame it. He may be self-aware. I think it's you're right. It's the self-mythologizing that is what gives me the ick, right?
Mhm.
It's like the most Italian thing he could do is to just cut the shit and tell us it's about the money. That's like that would be the most Italian thing he could do. Not okay, I'm obviously being facetious. It's not all about the money. I understand that, but just be honest with us, like this custodian thing, nobody asked for him to be our fucking custodian. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I I understand completely where this feeling is coming from. I want to be very clear. Like, I don't dislike Evan personally. We're not trying to be, not trying to be like with the like. If we're gonna, the cynicism that we're pointing at here is that look, he yes presents a certain way, clearly sees himself a certain way. He does he did the choice. It's a choice to put the names of the people who taught you, the women who taught you how to make the pasta on the menu. He doesn't have to do that. Like most people don't. It's a choice, and he didn't have to center them in his episode. It's a choice, and I think overall, it's a respectable one. The cynical side could say it's kind of just all coming back around to him, right? Because is it
like, are they getting a cut?
Yeah,
are they getting a cut of those dishes?
I don't know if they need to get a cut necessarily. I disagree with that idea, but like it's more like instead of like, hey, this is a person who instead of it just being this is a person I really respect and worship in Alessandra, right? Like and like really appreciate, which he does. It's clear. It's also like, isn't it cool how I champion the women?
Yes.
Right. Like it's a little bit of that. Yeah.
And I want to make it clear too. I'm not coming from a place of hating Evan either. I really don't. I'm just obviously passionate about this subject. It's deeply personal to me as an Italian person. And like, I do like come at it from a place I think of love. Like literally, like I am appreciative that Evan Funke's restaurants exist.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm appreciative that there's a place where you can get excellent handmade pasta. It's just the attitude around it which really rubs me the wrong way. I think you're right. It's like there's something about it which is like it is a catch-22 in some ways, because I think in this day and age you kind of need that face at the front of the restaurant in order to make it marketable, to open a restaurant in Miami, to open a restaurant in Las Vegas, and to be able to like continue operating a successful business. Like, we're not shitting on Wolfgang Puck for doing the same thing, right? But it's just the positioning of it, which I think gets to me.
Yeah. And again, like at the end, like when I watched the episode the first time, I had a much stronger reaction in this direction. When I rewatched it, I was like, you know what? No, it's cool. Like even if it's corny as hell.
That's called successful propaganda, bro.
Sure, yeah. That fair enough, I suppose. You got me, Evan. But like, I was like, no, look, fair enough. Sure, he's a little bit performative, right? Like he's a little like got like that, I don't know. I'll call it just like a Hollywoody edge, right? And I do think there's something endemic to LA sometimes that like creates that maybe culture or way of speaking of oneself. I mean, look, Nikki Nakayama didn't sound like this. Nancy Silverton didn't sound like this. There's a maybe different kind of, I don't know. It sometimes just came across a little bit more authentically. Of course, they were also seasons 1 and 2, so it was maybe.
Well, no, I'm saying you're making an excellent point, because like I think the point is you're actually doing a disservice to yourself, right? Like, like the term ikigai?
Yes.
So for those who don't know, it's ikigai is like a Japanese concept of your concept of like your true calling, right? Like your life's calling, right? Doing your purpose. And like, I believe that this could be Evan's ikigai to make pizza. I'm sorry, not to make pizza. To make pasta. But when you do things like pick up the mattarello and look down it like the barrel of a gun, I'm just like, what the fuck, bro? I'm just like that to me feels performative. And of course I'm nitpicking, but like the whole thing feels performative to an extent. And in that sense, it ends up feeling borderline insulting, like,
wow, white on white crime, dude. White on white crime. You hate to see it.
I know. I feel bad even saying it, like, because obviously, like, I was gonna raise the question about Rick Bayless here, right? And I know it's not the same. That like a white chef cooking Italian food, but it feels the same.
Does it? It's a fair question about like, and for the record, I think Evan has been critiqued about this, right? Like when I was kind of researching him a bit more before this conversation, I think it was like he has been called out about like, hey, why are you, as someone who is not Italian by heritage, why are you taking on this role? It's not like a conversation that doesn't exist around him. So like that's fair. Something I was also confused by from this chef's table thing, and I actually tried to look it up. How much time did Evan actually spend in Italy studying?
3 months.
Is that like, so is that it? It can't be it. It can't be it.
Well, no. Okay, I'm sure he spent more time there, I'm sure. But like he said, he spent 3 months in Bologna, and he was like, I spent as much time there as they would let me, as much time as they would let me in the pot. But yeah, dude, this is basically that girl who studied abroad and came back and made pasta their entire personality.
She made good pasta. So what can you say? Uh, a little bit, yeah. I actually, and also that's tied to something else, which is I never understood really watching this multiple times why exactly he chose pasta.
Okay, well, actually, no, this is actually great because it brings up probably my biggest critique of this episode. It was fucking boring, bro. Like it was boring. And here's what it is, right? Like beautiful to look at. Love watching people make pasta, right? But the story itself was boring. Like, and that was my fear when they picked Evan to do this. Like, and I proved this thesis out because I watched the next episode, and it was like this chef from China, from a rural village in China, who had to move to like the big city when she was 12 to literally like feed her family. That was literally like the stakes were so much higher in that one than this one, which was rich kid from LA, doesn't know what to do. His girlfriend tells him, hey, maybe you should cook. He's like, that sounds okay. So he goes to Spago, for fuck's sake, then goes to a different restaurant because I'm sure he got like bored of Spago.
Okay. There's some ad hominem there, just for the record. We don't know why he left to different places, but yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. But he went to this other restaurant where the chef was from Bologna, and the chef from Bologna wouldn't really spend time teaching him to make pasta. So in a rage of petulance, he's like, fuck you, I'm going to go. Oh, wait, okay. That was not ad hominem. He literally said, I was like, fuck you, I'm going to make pasta.
He did say it. So like literally, so yes, this is what we're getting to. He essentially spite found his meaning in life. Word, dude. Like good for you. Like pettiness all the way through. I fucking respect it. But I was like kind of curious. I was like, wait, what was that? It like you were pissed he wouldn't teach you, so
yeah,
you went to Bologna, and then that 3 months later, your whole life. I mean, look, if that was the story, if that is the story, respect it, dude.
Respect.
Like if I could do it, I respect. Like if I could do anything for 3 months and then be like the best in LA at it, I'd feel like a god. I'd feel like a king.
Yeah, but it wasn't just 3. He went there for 3 months. He came back and he kept studying it. You know, it's not like this guy's a prodigy or something. He studied. Look, you can learn to be a sfollino. Like in Italy, you can go and like you, Father Sal, could get on a plane right now and go learn to be a sfollino. Like all it takes is time, dedication, and yes, passion. And I think that Evan has all those 3 things, and that's to his credit, right? I do believe he's passionate about this, right? But that's not my point. The point is the episode was boring because then also when I was talking about the drama, Evan's drama is that he sucked at managing his first restaurant and it went bankrupt, right? And he was $3 million in debt.
But yeah, he got fucked over by a business partner, which is not a unique story, unfortunately, in the industry.
Yeah, not a unique story, but also, okay, we could argue that is trauma to be $3 million in debt, right?
Oh yeah.
However, they didn't really give us any details.
Of course.
They didn't really make us care enough about the protagonist or any of it to make the episode worthwhile in terms of story. So to me, it was just, my biggest issue was this is boring, bro. And that made it feel more like propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what it is at the end of the day. I feel like I didn't think he was as boring as you did, but I understand what you're saying. And I think that's also why it was a good decision and a fair decision for him to, spend time pointing, giving attention to the other people around him, right? Like, I think, like, that like, it's not like a Guggen story or a Francis Mallmann who's like a fucking badass, like, creative genius. It's like a guy who got really passionate about something, fully committed his life to it, wants to raise up the people who led the way and also get credit for raising them up. And commit to it, right? I mean, it's funny when you have the question and the agenda around, like, the ikigai, right? Like the meaning of life. I was like, is the meaning of life for Evan felt like coming out of this? Yes, making handmade pasta, but more specifically, getting to flex hard about how much you make handmade pasta. And it's like it is like they're the attention to. And look, like this is like an unfair. We were talking about this for so long. This is like basic stuff, dude. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I think it was a good episode about a dude who makes good pasta. The pasta looked good in the show. He's maybe a little bit corny and a self promoter. Like he's in the restaurant industry. It's like not a huge deal for that to be the case.
Yeah, but making
I'm sorry you feel personally like culturally offended, but it is also funny because you're just an Italian.
hey, we have feelings too. Actually, too many feelings, arguably. But yeah, no, it is funny that, and it really comes down to the attitude, dude. If he was just like, "Yo, pasta, I'm gonna get rich off this shit," I'd be like, respect, you know? It's really just this custodian thing because I don't need him to be my custodian, bro. I just don't.
Yeah, dude. Like at the end of the day, let's be real. This is a personal.
This
is a personal problem, man. A little bit.
But to be fair, so is this for Evan. And that comes down to the whole thing. Like he talked about being a custodian and wanting to center pasta, but even when he's talking about it in his interviews, he's like, I didn't have direction. I was lost. I needed purpose. Like it's about him, dude. At the end of the day,
it's his chef's. It's his chef's table episode. It's his chef's table episode. Like he's okay. Like he is the first person narrator of the story. I think that is okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we're gonna agree to disagree on this one. Last question. I did want to ask you one last thing on Chef's Table, and I just think, okay, great show, fantastic, beautiful to watch, all of the stuff. Is it, however, perpetuating the same old toxic chef worship the industry has worked so hard to get away from? Sorry to be that guy. I hate to be that guy.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say so. Well, I guess technically yes, right? Like the idolization and mythologizing of chefs is what theoretically can give them the power to then be toxic, right? It's not like doing the show makes things toxic. It's that when you idolize people like this, they can then like potentially abuse their power. I'm not like I'm tossing that question aside. Nah, like it's a show, and then the culture question is a different one. I did have a question for you though.
Damn.
Which is, who would be your ideal Chef's Table profile? Like which chef would you want to see on the show the most?
I mean, not for nothing, but like Diego Argotti, right? Like, and I don't say like literally.
Yeah.
The interview we had here, I just asked him, hey, how did you start cooking? And he went on like an hour and a half rant about like the most incredible life story of all time. And so it's not like the most incredible, like it's just a really interesting, nuanced life story, right? And I think that there's some true beauty in that one, and there's real twists and turns. I think ultimately you got to remember you're making TV. So that was my biggest problem with this episode. Beyond the centering, beyond the personal stuff, I just thought it was boring. That's all.
I will say, all respect to Diego, I do agree that he'd be an interesting one. Has a little bit of this gene in him too, though. A little bit of the, like a little bit of the Abdo, a little bit of the Evan.
Yeah. But he doesn't purport to be anything other than that, right? Like he's not a custodian of chaos cooking.
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, and I feel like honestly, I don't think chefs make for good custodians. You kind of have to be a bit like, you have to kind of be a bit in the spotlight and center yourself to be a chef. And that's okay. But just like, don't bullshit us. Like we don't like to be lied to as audiences.
I'm glad you had this time to get all this off your chest, bro.
Dude, I canceled therapy tomorrow, so this was actually very helpful. All right, buddy. Anything else? What are we watching next?
What? Oh, that's a good question, actually. There was a show I sent you. I didn't realize it was like a Korean show, but Netflix has a show. Oh my god, I'm gonna forget the name, but Ed Lee is on that as well, and it's like it's about like different like economic, like people cooking at different economic classes or skill levels. It's like 100 different chefs or something competing against each other. I would be down for that. I should know the name of the show if I'm talking about it here. But I actually do want to say, just generally, we got to get more regular with our food media content here. Like once a month, we got to be talking about shit.
Okay, whose job is that?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a fair point. I've had that thought, and I was like, that's on me. That's on me to do that.
That's like when you start, like when an employee is like, hey, we got to get tighter on like our expense budgets. And it turns out like they've been expensing like the most ridiculous shit and they get fired for it. Okay. So,
did this happen to you?
No, I was just coming up with an example on the fly. And I just feel like that's something that could potentially happen to me. I think we should watch that Demi Moore movie next.
Dude, no. The Substance? Fuck no, I'm not watching that. That Eater was out of pocket saying that's a food show. No, that looks so gross. It looks so gross.
I'm going to watch it and I'm going to make the executive decision. I promise not to be biased. Like if it's really not about food, we won't do it. But if there's enough about food, I think we should do it.
All right. I'll read the Wikipedia summary for it. I'm not watching that.
All right, buddy. Man. Good job by you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast presented by Rusty's Chips. Thanks as always to Father Sal for making the time for us. Thanks to Adam Skaggs, Tim Bertolini, Tiffany Perez, and Abdo Haj for helping to produce this episode. And thank you to you, dear listener, for listening. If you like what you heard today, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe. Seriously, all that stuff really helps us. We'll be back next week with another epic episode, but if you're looking for us in the meantime, you can find us at the LA Countdown on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and even our website. That's TheLaCountdown. Don't forget to go subscribe to our free Substack newsletter, LA Food Stack, linked in the show notes. And you can also find us on Instagram at LA Food Pod. That's LAFOODPOD.